afternoon, everybody. Thanks again for joining us for the April Connect conference. We've got two speakers today, Cecilia Lamb from Citi and Dr. Vinu, who works in tech. I'm going to hand over without too much ceremony to Cecilia, who's going to share her screen and talk us through her career story. Over to you, Cecilia.
First of all, thank you for having me, Migrant Leaders, for inviting me to become a mentor and actually have an opportunity to speak to you all at this conference. So just quickly introduce myself. I'm Cecilia Lamb, but people call me Cici. So you can call me Cici anyway. So I just want to spend about a couple of minutes to talk you through my career journey, the step that I took, something that I learned along the way, and I hope that, everyone can at least take one thing away today. So first of all, I want to pass on a wisdom first before I start talking about myself, because it's an earlier wisdom that I took from a mentor of mine when I started my career. Her name is Angel, and someone that I really respect. And she told me that career is like running a marathon. It's full of obstacles, but you need to keep moving. And I remember she was explaining to me about why is it running a marathon, but not a 100% meter sprint or a 500-meter sprint, because marathon runners need to prioritize endurance. You need to know when to stop, or technically not stopping, slowing down, or running fast in the right time and the right environment. It's basically take endurance, patience, and consistent effort to actually finish a full marathon. It's not easy to be done. And I kind of reflected my career and I can really relate to it. So as you can see, kind of this, timeline map that I put together, I'll tell you a little bit about myself first. So born in Hong Kong, I had my GCSE equivalent in Hong Kong back then. And honestly, I wasn't a very particularly bright student. I think if you kind of convert to the number scale right now in GCSE, our average, I think 4 or 5 grades. Some of them are probably better at 6, I would say. And then I moved to Australia to continue my education. And obviously 20 years ago, I graduated from Master of Human Resources Management from a university in Melbourne called Monash University. I know that I want to get into HR, but I didn't know how to do it. So I remember back then you really newspaper or getting into like some, very simple job advert site. And I landed a job as a recruitment consultant in a very small agency. The agency is probably about 10 people. And obviously, as my first job, I just need to learn something. And this first step taught me something very important. You don't actually need to know your whole career plan on day one. It was just a starting point because I was never imagined that, like from that small agency of 10 people, that I actually could get to work into a huge corporation like Citi. And obviously, about a year or so, I knew that it wasn't the right place for me. I keep exploring, and then I got an opportunity to move to one of the big four companies and become an early career coordinator. So I started as coordinator, and then I got, opportunity to progress my career. I then moved into a recruiter role. I learned the foundations of HR, how to organizing things, how to talk to candidates, how to understand what manager needs. So what I learned there is really basic HR technical skills. And actually, again, looking back, right, I was thinking, oh, I really did not rush it. I really built on learning my good foundation. Then I actually got a phone call from someone that I worked with when I was in PwC. She joined JP Morgan, obviously a very leading investment bank. So she told me that they were actually setting up our talent acquisition or recruitment function back then because it wasn't common back then in-house in an organization that you actually have a recruitment quote unquote function. So I joined JP Morgan. I actually started again in my career because I went from being a recruiter at PwC to actually started as a coordinator again at JP Morgan. But later on, I got an opportunity. I moved in different roles at JP Morgan, and I actually led the recruitment for asset management function for the whole Asia Pacific region. That was a turning point for me. Yeah, I can see that in my career. I wasn't just filling roles. I was able to actually really understand the businesses, starting to build senior relationship and learn how to manage pressure and work on different projects. And what I then learned is actually communication. It's one of the key things that differentiate someone in their career journey. And then there are some personal reason I have to let JP Morgan, and then I managed to secure a role at BNY Mellon, another big financial services company. Um, and then I actually got to expand my opportunity from just, filling positions behind hiring, working on talent acquisition projects, initiative. And that taught me how to fix problems, improve processes, and actually managing manage change, basically. So what I learned at that time was really career growth when there's new opportunities and new skills building on existing foundation. Then I got a call again because Citi at that time in Asia Pacific was trying to actually revamp their whole early career initiative. And because of my background of that, um, I got an opportunity to actually join the early career transformation for the Asia Pacific region, again, based in Hong Kong. I had a couple different roles in Hong Kong in Citi, and then I actually moved from, just leading certain smaller functions into a regional leadership TA role. When I left Citi Hong Kong, I was leading the North Asia talent acquisition function. Then I got another opportunity. It's brought me to London. So 4 years ago, Citi had a consent order. Quote unquote consent order means actually they has a huge fine. So they had to feel something huge within the whole Citi group. I then moved into doing HR transformation, basically creating something that the entire bank did not have back then about how do we use skills to quantify the capability of the organization and how do we make sure that in certain areas of the pockets in the organization, if there's lack of skills, there could be some risk in it. And how can we make sure that risk would not become a bigger problem for the organization? So managed 4 years ago to move from quote unquote a regional Asia Pacific role into a global role. And I also moved myself into not just taking something from the headquarter or US to execute, but actually creating something for the organization to understand what skills people have and what do we actually need for the future. So at least in my current stage of my career, I'm learning that career evolve when I am ready to embrace change, and I'm really not fear for that. Why I like to work in the financial services or banking industry, and that's probably a couple of things that I really enjoy about my job. The first thing is I really enjoy what I do every day. And I think it's a very fast-paced environment in banking. I learn something new every day. I feel like nothing is really the same. I also are able to build new ideas or introduce new ideas to an organization as big as Citi. That change how it works. And one of the really good thing about working in such a big organization is I work with people around the world, and I also learn to manage a virtual team that people sit in India, Ireland, and also in the US. And this is something I can think back, right? I can talk about, right, the marathon running and all that. I would never imagine when I started as a junior, recruitment consultant in a 10-person firm. And I think that's really the beauty of a long career and how you kind of have that resiliency and endurance while running that career marathon. So looking back at obviously each of these chapters of my career, there are a couple of advice I would like to share with everyone on the call, like a lot of the young people here. The first tip I always say to people is stay curious. I don't think it's just the banking industry and all that, right? Every job industry, technology is changing so fast, especially now everyone is thinking about AI. What does it mean for me and all that? Curiosity keeps everyone relevant. And your degree or something that you learn from school, it's really just the beginning. It's not the end. I think I'm quite lucky to build an HR career where I were a major or had a master in HR. But a lot of people, when you actually talk to them, they might be doing something very different at their study, and then they don't know how they got in and end up in a different career, right? So what I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter, right? Keep learning. It's the most important thing, and it's the most and able to learn is the most important skill that you get throughout your whole working career. Do not overthink every decision. I think it's okay to not have everything figured out when you're 18 or even you're 28 or 38, right? Because you don't know what will come to you next. Like I would never imagine myself moving to London 4 years ago with my whole family, right? I never imagined myself coming from a talent acquisition background and now doing something completely different in my career. And I think sometimes you just need to kind of brave enough to take the next step, learn from it, and course correct later. And your story is your own power because no one can actually tell your own story and be confident about it while you're writing your own story. So I think the last tip that I kind of tell you is if you know your strength, do something that you're good at and just kind of continue to write that book. For anyone who probably interested to join the banking or financial services, um, rather than telling you what the requirement is, I want to, because I'm a skills quote unquote expert, I want to talk about the skills that you need. The number one skills is teamwork because you're going to work with a lot of people in a lot of different function. And I don't think that is just a banking thing, right? You need to kind of have the ability to communicate well because no one person can do everything. And because of the environment that we're in, there's so many changes, there's so fast. Make sure that you're very adaptive, you're comfortable with change and uncertainty, you'll be fine. And also make sure that you take good ownership, you aim for high standard in your job because people would not remember what you know, but people remember how you work and what you're going to deliver. And obviously, you do need some technical skills to be able to work in the banking industry. I'm not going into that details because different areas of the banking industry would require different technical skills. That's for everyone to figure out or ask me if you want to know more. You need that. And obviously, to be able to communicate what you do and what you know, you need to have good communication. Just watching my time there, I probably close with 30 seconds with everyone with one tip that hopefully you can take away. I think one of the takeaway for all of you is career don't move in straight lines. At least mine did not, right? So in every role, even in very small role that I did, I think I've learned something from it. And I hope everyone can keep learning and remember that career are running like a marathon and not a sprint and just keep moving forward one step at a time. So thank you.
Thanks very much for standing in, Fawzia. Hi everyone, it's Elham Fardod speaking. Apologies, I dialed in late because I was coming from another conference. Glad to be here. Thank you, mentors and mentees of Migrant Leaders. Cecilia, that was a wonderful career story. I managed to catch at least half of it and it was inspiring. Thank you. I saw in the chat, Fawzia, that you had put, we're happy to take questions after each talk. Is that right?
Yes, I think so. If that's okay with Cecilia. Yep.
So mentors and mentees, feel free to speak up, put your camera on if you wish, but certainly speak up and ask questions either by asking, by speaking up, or if you must, put questions in the chat.
I'm happy to ask a question.
Marvelous. Thanks, Veronica. Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Hi, Cecilia. Thank you so much for sharing. That was really inspiring, and it's great to see, people like you with passion for what they do and with those reflection points, right, that are so important to share with, especially with younger people as well. I'm curious to hear from you, because the way I see now with you're saying about AI, right, and the new technologies and everything happening at the moment, what would you say is one or two like soft skills that, I don't know, that young people nowadays need to develop? Because the way I see it, I think the hard skills will kind of be done the way I see, taken by AI, and I think it will be even more important for us to learn those soft skills, those human skills. So yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. What would you encourage young people nowadays to, in what soft skills, I guess, to?
Okay, I'll probably talk a little bit about my personal take, and don't quote me on that, right? It's just a personal opinion into how, obviously I can't predict how the future work would look like. But at least from a skills perspective, I can see that a lot of the roles or how organizations are thinking are moving from more a quote unquote an operating role or dual role into two types of role. Let me just differentiate it. One type of role is you are basically focused on relationship, meaning i.e. sales role, right? Sales, customer service type of role. Because that, I don't think, at least as of now, the technology or AI can replace any human being. And honestly, I don't think people or human being like to be talking to just AI, right? It's not fun to do that. So I think that's probably, for example, if you put in a banking context, right, the front office role, i.e. the bankers and all that, are still very highly valued. There's another role that I'm seeing. The other role that we are thinking when we're talking about skills, what emerging skills we need, or how organizations are reorganizing ourselves, it's people who are creating framework. So it's not so much on what do we do now, right? It's how can we create processes or improving processes or leveraging whatever out there to drive work. So I'll use an example. In the past, when we hire junior bankers to come in, especially for corporate bankers or commercial banker, it's quite typical to teach them credit skills. I think it's like a 101 skills, right? Everyone needs to know. But now it's actually in discussion about removing them out of the training curriculum. And I guess just because of, certain things that can be done by the AI or all that, right? So I think that's kind of moving to this type of directions. And because of that, you think about the soft skills we need, right? If you are doing obviously relationship, you need really have the sales skills, relationship building skills, collaboration skills, and all that. When you're in more of the framework type of role, which kind of I'm in right now, you are learning a lot of design thinking. You are learning a lot of skills in terms of collaboration, cross-functional collaboration, especially, and actually how to ask the right question and problem solve. and I think that's why when I kind of create that presentation, I was really thinking about the learning aspect of it, because no matter what role, I would say, personally speaking, you're in, you need to adopt and learn anyway. And I think that learning agility, it's probably the best skill everyone should have.
Thank you.
You know, Cecilia, Veronica, I want to say something about the emergence of AI and what impact that's going to have in the job market. There is some fear by the new generation and the rest of us that, my goodness, AI is going to take our jobs. But I'm old enough to remember the talk when robotic process automation came about, sort of 15, 20 years ago. And in the world of finance, where I was working in finance, a lot of my colleagues were saying, oh my God, accountants will all lose their jobs. Finance people will all lose their jobs. And actually that hasn't happened, because effectively what happens every time there's automation or standardization, commoditized process-driven activities become automated and standardized, and we simply together move up the curve. Move up the curve. You just got to work out what curve you're on and what does moving up the curve means in your profession. The same is going to happen with AI. There are estimates that around there will be new jobs because of AI, and that around 80% of the current workforce will be able to be retrained and upskilled. There will be 10% who either cannot be upskilled or don't have access to the training needed for that. But that was the case with robotic process automation as well. And dare I say, before my birth, that was the case with automation in manufacturing industries. So this is just an evolution of technology. Let's stay focused on the target and work out what our place is in this new environment.
Thank you. And I guess, like Cecilia said, keeping that curiosity and agility in learning will definitely be very important. Thank you.
I can see that there are also some questions in the chat. So Sarah, one of our mentees who I know, has asked, what's your biggest tip in differentiating yourself, for example, in interviews for roles, especially in oversaturated markets like medicine and finance? Anyone, any of the mentors can answer that.
Alam, I will take the question.
Oh, hi, Vinu, please go ahead.
Yeah, fine. See, here is that medicine, finance, or any domain, it is not overloaded. See, for example, population is increasing worldwide. Healthcare need is increasing. So opportunities are increasing. In healthcare, automation is increasing. So opportunities are increasing. The industry demand the young generation to come forward and join with the upskilled resources. So there is a plenty of opportunities out there. But the success depends on that. The subject, the domain expertise is most important. Then they survive in the industry. However, the crowd is increasing. Coming to the financing sector, because the currency to physical money to now digital currency, so the transactions are, every minute is a huge, 1 lakhs of people are doing the transactions. So the volume of data is increasing. The backend process is increasing the nature of work, data analysis, transactions, tracking. One person travels one city in a day to multiple cities and multiple transactions with a single account, with single ATM card. So in a day, the particular resource is doing 10 transactions. So in a finance, the requirement of consolidation is increasing more. So the resource requirement is more compared to earlier. So industry always, multiplies the resources, never comes down. So one should not worry about that. Only one should worry about that, how strong we are updating ourselves to meet the industry demand. That is what the challenge in front of us. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you so much, Vinu. That was a really good answer. Our relative position in the market as talents, and the fact that actually everything is not crashing and burning, and actually demand for those technical skills in these technical fields such as finance, medicine, engineering, the demand is actually increasing exponentially. The evidence supports your point of view, Vinu, that in all these industries, the STEM skills, medicine, medical, engineering, mathematics, technology, actually there are lots of roles that need filling in, and they keep growing. So young people, again, move up the curve, work out what's your technical field that you're brilliant at. What is your technical field that you're brilliant at, and become the very best at it that you can. At least in the first 10 years of your career, you've got to nail that technical field and your sector expertise. And then after that, we'll get into leadership and executive development. But the first 10 years, in my view, if I had to give a number to it, the first 10 years is all about your technical expertise and sector experience and creating that depth.
I agree with you. So
looking at the chats and the comments, many comments and questions. So do any of the mentees or mentors want to pose a question or comments?
I just want to follow up on, I think, the previous question to talk about, I think, as a student and a graduate, sometimes I feel like there's nervousness about quote unquote cracking that interview process. And I think that's probably where the questions came from. So I do want to share some thought on that from a banking perspective. So especially in the banking sector, I think that because of the AI or automation coming, a lot of the processes initially are not done by standard interviews. So I think you might have, a lot of the students might have experienced that, like some companies throw you some tests, right? Or even some of the companies, they're using AI interviewers. And you feel like I haven't even get to, talking to a human being. And then, I got a rejection letter. What's going on? But my advice usually to people is please be very genuine in who you are. And because a lot of these technology has been fully tested, right? So there's a lot of what we call the online assessment are basically judgmental assessment. And a lot of these are actually matching to the personality or the traits that the organization wants. And they would screen out people that they know that might not be the right fit for that organization. And some of them are very situational judgment tests as well to test on your problem-solving skills, as you just mentioned. So I think being genuine is really important, because if you are not genuine and you just, yes, you could basically get yourself a job, maybe you cracked it, whatever, you might have some, magical technology at the back end, but you will not enjoy working in that environment. So that's kind of how my personal view is, stay genuine. If you're the right fit, you will go past all this assessment or reasoning tests. And then I think if you perform by telling your story the right way, you definitely be very competitive in the job market.
Absolutely right, Cecilia. And if I can offer the other side of the recruitment process regarding connections and sponsorship. I would say to the mentees, Migrant Leaders Mentees, do not underestimate the power of mentors and sponsors. What do I mean by that? We hear all these stories from Migrant Leaders Mentees and mentors, how their mentor, even though it wasn't part of their volunteer role as a mentor for migrant leaders, they often referred their mentee for specific roles. Often it meant that in certain organizations, they were able to bypass the first stage because of the referral. Or what was lacking in their CV was a 1-week work experience in a top firm. And yes, Migrant Leaders provides some of that with our corporate partners, but mentors are a very important source of connection. So do not underestimate the value of having a mentor. And that's why those mentees who have joined our monthly Connect conferences with mentors, well done. Well done. Connect with the mentors you've seen and spoken to on the Connect conference afterwards. If you want to offer them, for them to select you on our Migrant Leaders app as their mentee, message them on LinkedIn and ask, would that be possible? Do they have capacity? Be respectful that they might not have capacity, but you can only ask. And those mentees who are watching this video afterwards who couldn't attend this particular Connect conference, again, take note of how valuable and different each of our Connect conferences are with different mentors. So the power of connections as well through Migrant Leaders. Don't forget that, mentees.
Agree. True.
Wonderful. So with time in mind, I think, Vinu, you were kind enough to volunteer your time to tell your career story. Is that right?
Thank you. Yeah.
Fawzia will kindly put your slide on.
Sure. Thank you for Migration Leaders. This platform was very inspired me, when I come across Migrant Leaders. The name itself is very attractive for me to look forward. What makes, this Migrant Leaders, initiative. But when I joined, it was a very unique and mentoring from the school level children's. That was, more attracted. In this platform, in our app, I've been connected almost 1.5 years back. 25 students across from UK universities. I had a one-to-one talk, very energetic and very futuristic. That is what my takeaway from the Migrant Leaders as mentor. And why I started as a mentoring as a hobby, because I started my career at the age of 70 as a young boy. As a passion, I started learning typing. The typing made me too curious to learn when technology is moving. Typist to data entry operator on electronic typewriter. From there, I've been joined into the insurance company as a microprocessor operator. From there, I've been learned COBOL programming. That programming inspired me to study for engineering, computer science and engineering. There, I joined as a HCL Technologies as a consultant in the applications. I roam around the world in the ERP product, supporting the customers. In the journey, what I learned, first, the hobby which we start at the early age of 10 years and 15 years, that hobby, if we nurture, that drives us as a career into the peak stages. If you look at my journey, I started as a data entry operator at the age of 17. After 37 years, I reached to as a CEO and board of director. Almost 25 organizations, I am a mentor. 52 universities. I am a career guide, and I have been started project called AI Literacy Program. I've been completed 30,000 students has been given the basic fundamental AI skills. Means one should have a passion from the hobby. My hobbies were reading, book reading. The reading enhances our quick grasping power and memory and learning and explanation capacity. These are the unique characters we learn while reading as a hobby. Next, I used to do cycling is a hobby. The cycling gives a strength to networking with the peer or friend children of age group. The same when we move to the business segment or career or working environment, we'll also, networking with other people, giving and taking, helping, that we learn from the cycling of group of children. I've been doing gardening as a part of, connecting to the nature. That made me to start 2020 in COVID time as my startup company as agronomics, because future is food production. Every human being need a meal on the table, however, whatever the career we do. Another is that I used to have a hobby of painting and coloring. The coloring and painting gives that, quick decision making, how it looks like, that skill it improves. And the playing chess, it teaches us as a strategy, how to take a step, how to understand and resolve the problems. Because every skill we learn at the age of below 10 when we are child and work, in the school and children's and friends, with the teachers, with neighbors, with our seniors, with our siblings. All is going to be transformed in the technical way we use in our career profession in a different naming. That is what I learned. So in the bottom, you can see the image, typewriting, electronic type, and as a CEO to that. So my takeaway and giving to the mentees, one is that identify your hobby, where you enjoy, nurture it, move into that domain. That way what happens, you will dominate and your presence will be identified. You can contribute to the industry. That is what it shapes you as a dynamic leadership. Right? Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you so much, Vinu. And it's really wonderful to hear your passion for mentoring. And I love what you said about nurture the hobbies that you had as a young person, because there is something in it in terms of your career progression. I always say, if you've lost sight of who you are, speak to your 10-year-old self. Because whenever I've done that, I have recalibrated myself. That 10-year-old self knows more than their age might suggest. So thank you so much. And I welcome any questions directed at Vinu by mentors or mentees. Questions or comments, please speak up.
Yeah, Frank, any question? I think you want to ask something? Frank,
are you online?
Yeah, he's online.
Go ahead.
Online. No, I didn't say I wanted to ask any questions. I just reacted positively to the things you were saying.
Thank you so much. I know, Frank, you've got quite a backstory in terms of how you ended up doing chemical engineering.
Well remembered. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing to bear in mind is that we all have different starting points and different endpoints, different journeys. And although we as mentors can share our stories, journeys, and experiences. Everybody's life and where they start from is completely different. But the experiences are there to kind of guide you, because you will hit some obstacles, you will meet some challenges, and you will have self-doubt. And Ellen, I think your point is good in terms of imagine speaking to your 10-year-old self, because at that age, the sky's the limit. You don't have these mental constraints about what is possible and what isn't possible, and how ugly the world is. You're just going around, about your daily business, enjoying yourself and being cared and looked after. So what I would say is, yeah, follow your passion. What is it that you're good at? What is it that interests you? And how can you make that work for you? So yeah, Alan, you've made reference to chemical engineering, because when I was at school, yeah, I was very hardworking. I was very diligent. I respected the teachers. I listened. But there were some subjects I gravitated to more than others, and chemistry was my favorite subject. It wasn't everybody's favorite subject. Some people didn't like chemistry, but I did. And I still remember a lot of the things I learned at school. And because of this passion for chemistry, and to a certain extent science in general, um, when I was doing my A-levels and I was thinking about university, I started to think about courses where I could pursue that passion for chemistry. I didn't want to do pure chemistry. I wanted to do something else, whether it was biochemical engineering or chemical engineering. In the end, I decided chemical engineering. And I wasn't disappointed. It was a great degree, very broad. There was less chemistry than I thought there might be, but that's only because it's engineering. So there's going to be a lot of other things there, whether it's fluid mechanics, thermodynamics, even mathematics. But it's a very broad degree. It enabled me to go off and do other things. So left university, went to do research and development. Decided that wasn't for me after 3 years. Then I went to do engineering, and then from there it was manufacturing, and from there it was supply chain. But I could have gone anywhere. I could have stayed in research and development. I could have gone on to be some kind of technical or scientific engineer type person. I could have stayed in a very technical environment. I could have stayed in engineering. I could have stayed in manufacturing, but I moved around. Why am I telling you this? Because it's okay to try something, do that for a few years, and if it isn't for you, then with the skills you've got, the passion you've got, try something else or go in a slightly different direction. But the most important thing is, after 5 years or 10 years, you should be your story should write itself. I studied this, I did this, tried that, wasn't for me. I did this, I did that. Your story will write itself. And in writing it, you're having your own story being written by various events. You can take ownership of that. Yes, that's right. I did do this. And yes, I did do that. And yes, I decided to stay in this for these reasons. So again, everybody's experience is slightly different, but and during the early stages of your career, so I'm talking to the mentees now, the early stages of your career, it's okay to try different things, but follow your passion is what I would say. It's better to follow your passion and change your mind than to do something which you're not passionate about and you get stuck in a rut, you can't get out, or you haven't got the will to change because you're just so used to doing things in a certain way. For me, that is a waste of a life and waste of a career.
Absolutely, Frank. And I'll back you up on that, because following your passion, sometimes you know what is your passion and you'll go and do it. But often to discover your passion, you've got to try stuff. And that's where I think one of the strengths of our Migrant Leaders program, because we expose our students, our mentees, to so many opportunities with our corporate partners, so many different types of mentors from many companies, as well as our corporate experiences with our corporate partners, that very quickly on our program, they get a taster of many different industries and jobs. Hopefully that gives them some data points about what might be their passion, and then they can try things out for real. So I am going to be looking at the numerous comments. Lots of thanks, lots and lots of thanks. Mentee, David, very positive comments. David is saying that it's really helped in making sure to progress the skills that I already have obtained, and to make sure to work hard, allow myself to try new opportunities, and to support my future choices. Well done, David. Really good comment. And thank you everyone else for making their comments. Any other questions? We've only got about 7 minutes left before, admittedly, I've got to dash to another meeting. So any other comments or questions, everyone?
Well, just one from me again. Cecilia, you talked about learning and trying out different things, but the key thing was to stay curious and to learn. I think that's great because that is underestimated. This ability to open up yourself and to learn, because it's only when you do that you actually do learn, rather than pretend you know everything or closing your mind to certain things because they're not of interest. I can't remember who said this, but there's one famous CEO who said years ago, I'll have to track down the name of the person who said this. He actually famously said, "Everything I know at the top, I learned at the bottom." So you're not wasting your time by trying things and by learning. It's not a waste of time. It's nothing fluffy. It will put you in good stead later on.
Yeah. If you don't mind, also, I will try to. Can you hear me all? Yeah.
We can hear you and we can see you.
Thank you very much. I will not stop not contributing to all of you. Thank you very much for this meeting. One thing that I have to reiterate and also confirm that if you take any area of interest that you're interested in, and you have the passion to give your 100% in anything you're doing, you will always excel if you have the passion. That's what I want to say. Because if you're doing anything that you don't have the zeal or the passion to do it, sometimes you find in terms of difficulties, and you're not happy with whatever you're doing. But if you have the passion, you have the interest, to be honest, you excel. And I do agree also in terms of the timeline. You can keep on trying things until you find your way or yourself, maybe after a couple of years and everything, but definitely you get there. And that's when you see the career progression. You're finding yourself, and you find yourself easy. You're happy to go to work. Not you're being forced, you need to go to work or something like that. So I 100% relate and resonate with what you're saying in terms of being passionate in anything you're doing before. It contributes to your success. That's the point I'm trying to make. But thanks everyone for your contributions.
Thanks so much, Osman. That was really good, and I think it's worth mentioning to mentees. Notice your energy levels. Notice your passions, how you feel. Your body and your mind is trying to send you signals. Your body and mind is trying to send you signals about what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Notice the difference, because you can then, if you like, collect data on what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And also, sometimes take the long-term view. Sometimes a particular technical area you might have chosen, you might have to, for want of a better word, put up with it until you take it to the end, get the qualification, because it opens up other worlds for you. Accountancy is a very good example of that. Some people are passionate about accountancy enough that they want to do financial accounting for the rest of their lives, and that's brilliant. Other people really use an accounting qualification as a key to the door of business and credibility, and that's all right too. Sort of recognize that sometimes you have to play the long game and also be patient. It's a judgment that you have to apply to those decisions. I know that there was another question from Sarah. Sarah has asked one of our mentees, what's a characteristic that you find most valuable, especially for someone who isn't certain in what career path they want to take? Veronica has answered in the chat, be curious to learn about other people's paths in their profession. Ask questions, stay connected, and make yourself useful to people who need your skills. Learn along the way, discover what energizes you, and follow that. Happy to take another couple of comments and questions before we close the conference.
It's not a comment, but I would always recommend any student, because I came from early careers, right? Read a book. The book is called What Color Is Your Parachute? It's an amazing book. And that is a great book that talked about how to find that passion in you.
Very good recommendation. I hadn't heard about that one, Cecilia. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cecilia, can you repeat the book name?
It's called What Color Is Your Parachute?
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a book it's like probably 50 years ago, but they have different editions. I would highly recommend people to read it.
Okay.
Wonderful. I can see that Fawzia has kindly put the name of the book in the chat as well. Thank you very much as well, Cecilia and Fawzia. That's wonderful. Thank you for the recommendation. I would also recommend one of our charities patrons, Rene Carayol, who wrote a book called Spike. Rene is a Fortune 500 CEO coach, a remarkable professional, remarkable man, and we're lucky to have him as a patron since the inception of Migrant Leaders. And his expertise really is finding your strengths, not just what you're good at, but what you're brilliant at. So his book is called Spike, and that's also worth reading. Thank you very much. Right, we've only got a couple of minutes left, so perhaps if there aren't any more questions or comments, I will close the conference. Thank you so much as ever, Migrant Leaders, Mentors and Mentees, particularly this month, Vinu and Cecilia, for telling your career stories, and everyone for making your comments. Thank you, Mentees, for asking questions and engaging. And well done. Thank you very much. Well done, Mentees.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.